Tay. Medyo kinakapos sa oras because of this very interesting topic. Okay, Father says one question. So natural law is built-in sa atin. Lahat tayo may built-in na natural law sa loob natin. So can anybody say na, well, okay, fine, so built-in pala sa sarili ko, so I can make my own natural law. Is that the correct position?
Well, in a sense, yes, you can say I will make my own natural law. In a sense, no naman. Okay, so in a sense, yes, we can say I can make my own natural law because it is precisely our very same practical reason that constitutes it. Bawat isa sa atin may sariling pag-iisip. At yung naturang batas, taglay natin yan, bawat isa. It is our own. It's our own share. It's our own reasoning. And so therefore, it's ours. And because natural law has to govern all our actions. Now, the way that natural law governs our actions is through our conscience. Okay? So iba yung naturang batas. Yan ay isang hwisyo na ginagawa ng ating rason praktikal tungkol sa kung ano yung tama at mali. Okay? Pero ang hwisyo na yan, napaka-general yan. For example, huwag mong nakawin ang di sa'yo. Huwag kang pumatay ng tao. Huwag kang magsinungaling. Sabihin mo yung tama. Magtrabaho ka. Kumain kang mabuti. So lahat yan, mga commands yan of natural law. Pero general yan. Very general.
Can I, yung sinabi nyo kanina, huwag kumain ka, huwag kang pumatay ng tao, and all those things, hindi pa siya yung natural law.
Yun ang precepts ng natural law.
Ano ibig sabihin ng precept?
Precept ay utos.
Okay.
Atas. Kasi ang natural law, hindi yan listahan ng mga batas o utos. Ang natural law is the same as our practical reason. Kumbaga, yan ang batas, yung ating rason. Okay, nagbibigay siya ng mga utos, mga atas na general.
Okay.
Tapos yung general laws na yan, pagdating sa very concrete situation, kung hinaharap natin, diyan dumadating yung konsyensya. Sinasabi ng konsyensya, sa sitwasyon na ito ang dapat mong gawin. Sa sitwasyon nito, dapat sabihin mo yung totoo. Huwag ka magsinungaling. Ganyan. Ngayon, yan, inuutos yan ng konsyensya. Pag sinunod natin yung konsyensya, which is the same reason, is our same practical reason, it approves. Magandang pakiramdam, ay nako, ito na lang. Pinakinggan ko yung konsyensya ko. Pero kung labagin natin yung utos ng konsyensya, may remorse. Parang
hindi maganda.
Hindi maganda yung pakiramdam, no? So iba yung natural law at iba yung konsyensya. Okay.
But can I so kung tama lang yung ordering ko, so natural law and then yung precept, or kumbaga una yung precept and then natural law. Tama ba ko ba?
Hindi, kasi yung natural law, yan yung sabihin natin, source, pinagsisimulan ng mga precepts.
So mas mataas ang natural law kaysa sa precepts. Okay.
Kasi natural law is the same reason, is our same human reason, human practical reason.
Okay.
That makes the precepts.
So again, saan galing to natural law na to? Kumbaga pag pinanganak tayo, yung natural law na yun, nasa utak na natin.
Nagde-develop yan because if natural law is the same as our practical reason that gives us precepts, practical reason develops over time. You reach the age of reason at the age of 7, more or less. But we can say, nandun na siya. Hindi lang siya develop, but it's there in potency or in ability or as a capability.
Okay.
Well, Father, I was just wondering because we keep on talking about yung practical reason, mga ganun. Pero what if, for example, may sakit ako sa ulo or yung reasoning ko is not that well? Does that mean exempted ako dyan sa natural law?
Kasi natural law binds us when our reason works well. We are in control of our reasoning powers and we have free will. Alright, so but once reason is impaired, even naturally, even civil law will excuse the person from guilt. Kasi hindi na siya responsable. But yet, the people who regard a person who is impaired in his reasoning will have to still regard that person as person. Kasi tao pa rin siya, kahit na impaired yung kanyang pag-iisip. But natural law will cease to, you might say, bind him. Kasi hindi na niya ma-perceive. Hindi na niya ma-realize na, ganun pala.
Can I, kasi I'm very interested in this kasi parang for example, di ba, ang executive order, kunyari, presidente gumawa ng batas, executive order, pero yung executive order, nakabase lang yan sa isang congressional act. Kumbaga, hindi siya, yung executive order, hindi pwedeng lumabag sa isang act ng Kongreso. Tapos, lahat ng batas ang ginawa ng Kongreso, hindi naman siya pwedeng lumabag ng Constitution.
Right.
So, ang pinagmulan essentially is yung Constitution.
Yes.
Paano yung grading sa natural law? So, you say may precepts first, and then natural law. Ano pang, may mas mataas pa ba sa natural law?
Ang
Na pwedeng pinanggalingan ng natural law.
Ang source of natural law really is the author of human nature and human reason. And that is none other than God who created us and gave us this nature. Right? No? In fact, yung binding power, yung coercive power ng natural law does not come from our own selves. Kasi kung galing lang sa atin yan, di yung natural ko, kasing ganda ng natural mo or natural mo, we can fight and we will not agree. But we realize that yung coercive power of natural law comes from conscience because we realize that it comes from a higher source that we are bound to. Conscience in the end is the reason that tells us I cannot act otherwise in front of my Creator. More or less, that's how it goes.
That's conscience.
That's conscience.
So again, what's the difference between conscience again and natural law?
Conscience is a reasoning that applies the precepts of natural law to the concrete actions, to the concrete situations and cases that we face. Yung natural law, ano yan general yan. It gives us the general precepts. Okay. Right? Tells us what is morally right, morally depraved. And then conscience is the one that applies that. Okay.
So, one practical question like for example, anybody sa audience natin, okay, so kunyari, they're faced with the question, ito may batas na ginawa yung Kongreso. How will I know, as an ordinary person, itong batas na ginawa ng Kongreso na to, ito ba labag sa natural law or tapat sa natural law? Meron mga senyales or guideposts pa paano natin malalaman?
Well, so the precepts of natural law, the more common precepts of the natural law are that's why they're called common. It's because many people agree that that's the way it is.
And if I may interrupt lang, if you don't mind, the reason why I ask this question is kasi, like for example, may posibilidad din nangyari to sa history ng tao. Like for example, si Hitler or kung sino man diktador na andyan, kumbaga legal na government naglalabas sila ng mga batas, legal naman talaga yung batas sa ginagawa nila. Pero ngayon, nagiging tanong is, yung ordinaryong mabait na tao, kailangan ba niyang sumunod sa mga batas na yun, even though legal, dahil sa isip niya, hindi siya sumasang-ayon sa natural law. And that's my question to you now. Paano malalaman ng isang ordinaryong tao na itong batas na ginawa na to ay hindi sumasang-ayon sa natural law? Meron bang parang guide na pwede nating makita? Alam ko mahirap yung question, pero
yes.
Would there be some guides?
Yes. The guide usually is right reasoning and prudence. And the agreement of many wise and morally upright persons. Because yung mga presepto, mga inaatas ng naturang batas, na common is precisely common kasi many people agree that that's the way it is, ganun siya. So therefore, halimbawa, naglabas ang isang civil authority or isang kongreso ng isang batas na sinasabi, yung mga estudyante ng medicine, hindi yan pwedeng mag-graduate kung hindi mag-perform ng 10 abortion. Kasama yan ng kanilang curriculum. Dapat gawin nila yan. training yan.
Parang internship,
yan. So,
training.
Ngayon, siyempre, so yung tao naman, maisip niya, abortion, ano yan pumapatay ng tao yan.
Pero legal na batas to na ginawa ng
ginawa
Congress.
ng Kongreso.
Assuming na legal sa Constitution. Okay.
So, assuming na ganyan, they follow the procedures, due process, kung ano pa, ayan na, may batas. Ngayon, yung batas na yan, labag sa naturang batas kasi it does not respect the life of the unborn. So therefore, a person with right reason will say, and with conscience, will say, I cannot follow this. Hindi ko pwedeng sundan ng batas na ito.
So what you're saying is that if sumasang-ayon ng isang tao sa natural law, meron siyang karapatan, perhaps even duty, na wag sumunod sa batas na gano'n.
Tama yun. Yes.
Yun nga lang, baka mamaya makulong siya.
Of course, society and people will have to work so that true justice is observed and brought about by our civil laws. St. Augustine is the one who said that an unjust law that does not conform to the natural law is an unjust law. And in fact, it's not a law because law is what gives order or puts order and fulfills the good of people. But this one, obviously, this kind of law will not obtain order or good.
And I think may mga instances nga sa history na may mga batas na nilabas. Like for example, yung sa US na nagkakaroon ng diskriminasyon sa mga blacks.
Mga schools,
in schools or kahit sa hotel. Tapos sabi ni Martin Luther King, I will not follow this law.
That's right.
But yun nga lang, sabi niya, okay fine, di kulong niyo ako, and which the government did, kinulong nga siya. Which I think is the price na binayaran niya. Pero in the end, I mean,
they recognize the truth.
Precisely, they recognize the truth. And although we have to emphasize in sa audience na just because they feel na sa konsyensya nila and through proper meditation na merong isang batas na hindi nila masusunod dahil nga labag sa natural law, I think we have to tell the audience pa rin na in the end, baka mamaya kailangan pa rin lang managot sa civil government or sa secular government.
Now, in this concrete case, prudence has to come in. Although in the end, the person will have to really disobey such a law, but he will have to weigh the consequences of disobeying or perhaps for the meantime following the law. Because for example, if by disobeying a certain law might cause a great disruption in civil life or a great harm, it's possible that that might be a consequence. Then it might not be the prudent thing to do.
But what if by being prudent, kailangan niya tuloy sumunod sa law na yon, pero labag naman sa natural law?
Yes,
now,
so now,
if I may ask you naman as a priest, would that person be committing a sin?
Well, that one is a question of guilt. Am I guilty of something that I'm doing against my will? So, of course, the answer is no. Because if I'm forced, if I'm constrained, then I'm doing something against my will. So, I'm not responsible for it.
What if natakot ka lang kasi makulong? What would be the
Now, of course, it's a very difficult thing to weigh the guilt of the person who might not obey an unjust law. And that one we'll have to study it case to case. But when a person is indeed forced under duress or constrained to follow an unjust law against his conscience, then certainly he cannot be guilty of
So when making such a decision, dapat bang they just follow themselves or mag-consult muna sila bago mag-act?
That's the wise thing to do. to deliberate, to think, so to ask for advice, to find out what's the right thing to do here with this law that might contravene the natural law.
And as you can see, we're all wise people here sa Naturang Batas. That's why we keep asking si Father Ces for advice on this one. It's actually a very interesting topic. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. But I believe that Father Ces has agreed to come back again for another episode, and he will join us again next week to discuss further any more implications that we have on natural law. So for now, thank you for joining us here in Naturang Batas, Likas, Tama. I'm Jemy Gatdula, and see you again.